Welcome to Conversations with Funeka. I am your host, Funeka Soga. Today I have a very special guest with me. His name is Sandile Nkonki. He is the author of his book titled Recovery, which deals with depression and strategies how to overcome depression. This is a very sensitive topic that affects all of us, whether it's directly or indirectly. Let's explore this conversation together. Sandile, I first wanted to say thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversations and discussing more about my book called Recovery. Thank you for the opportunity and the platform to be able to share the stories about my book and to be able to share with the audience more on what recovery is and how depression and anxiety works around it.
And you know what? I actually just want to do this exercise before we even just dive into the conversation. I wanted to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling mentally? 1 obviously is feeling bad, and 10 is feeling like your mental health is at its peak. It's thriving.
I'll be honest with you, my mental health is at its peak right now. I'm thriving. I'm doing very well.
It's at a 10?
It's at a 10. 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 Thank you so much.
Okay, mine is actually on a between 5 and 6 currently.
I know.
It's between 5 and 6 currently in this current season.
We'll hopefully increase it soon. It will be increased.
You know what? I love that. I love the positive affirmation, actually.
We have to.
So before we get into our discussion, Sandile, right?
Cool.
I'd like to share a thought-provoking passage that I actually read in the notes from your book, which is on page 8. So let me just read it because I really just found it so profound. Let me just go to the extract. So it says, and this is the notes from the author, which is you.
Yes.
Yes. It says, depression is real, and it is a sickness that many unemployed, disadvantaged, financially distressed individuals deal with every day, and therefore suffer in silence. To those who are struggling with depression, this book is dedicated to you. As I have gone through depression, trust me when I say that we all keep it a secret, because depression is a sickness that we were never supposed to have, but honestly, we have it. Live with it and silently die with it. This is due to situations that are beyond our control, which affect us emotionally, physically, financially, and spiritually. Major contributors of depression are the death of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of financial income, debt, heartbreak, amongst many other things. The most vulnerable individuals are those who have no love, have no support, and feel alone every day. It can be different for different people at different times, and although there is treatment available, it is not effective enough for many people who are living with depression because it is merely based on having medical aid, which is inaccessible to everyone.
Yes. Yes.
Sure. I found it so profound for those. Actually, this is the book. This is Sandile's book, Recovery. What inspired you to write your book called Recovery?
Recovery was mainly written to address the issues that many unemployed, disadvantaged, financial distressed kids and adults face. And it was mainly written to speak the unspoken to those who have such high expectations, to individuals who have dreams that aren't able to fulfill the expectations. So in other words, it was merely written to be able to allow people to have dreams, but not to go against but to also not go against the expectations, you know. So recovery is mostly about dealing with depression. And it is merely to educate those who do not know what depression is about, to see what many of us go through. Right. And also, one of the reasons I had written on recovery was a matter of that I myself also went through it during COVID times. And I found myself in a position where I did not know what to do, but expectations and the pressures were going against me. And I felt like I did not belong, and the only way out of it was merely just by me using my art of writing to actually tell the story. And that is how recovery came about.
And for those that actually don't know Sandile, how would you define what depression is?
It's a mental illness, to be honest with you. It's a mental illness that is caused by various factors such as unemployment, financial situations, poor education. It's about dealing with heartbreak. It's about dealing with addiction. It's about dealing with emotional meltdown. But most importantly, it's about dealing with suicide. That is what it simply means.
And that is so true, Sandile. And my understanding, and of course, things that I've learned, over the years, just even about depression, it is also, it is the effects of life circumstances that you never planned for.
Yes.
It's definitely those ones. It is just the effects of, we don't plan to lose a loved one. We don't plan to lose family members, a spouse, a partner, your children. We don't plan to get fired from our jobs or to lose our jobs at that. We don't plan to fail in school. So I would say also, just from my understanding, it stems from life's unexpected turmoils that just happen like this suddenly, but you had not planned for it.
Yes, that is true. And many of those chapters do address what you have actually spoken about. And if the reader goes through it, most of them will be relatable to it, especially with poor education, in all honesty, because many of us inherit depression when we are at school because of expectations that are set at schools that are not aligned with our ambitions and goals, right? If I can take it a bit deeper, what we are taught in schools is to do what? Classwork, homework, schoolwork. But we're never taught to do self-work. We're not taught to do self-work.
I need you. I need you to. I need you to repeat that last sentence, please.
Yeah. Well, so
the self-work.
Self-work. We are not taught self-work, meaning that we are taught dependency. We are taught to chase external expectations and not our own internal expectations. And we find ourselves when we've spent about 12, 13 years realizing that we don't know much about ourselves,
about life,
and then we find ourselves in a position where we are now chasing obligations way more than chasing our own ambitions, which is why I'm wearing this t-shirt, which is called Isaga, Designed for Ambition, is that many of us, when we leave school, we're not ambitious enough because we are not necessarily taught to develop and build ourselves. And that's how
inner self-work.
Correct. That's how depression starts from ours. That is how depression starts, and that is how it actually affects many young disadvantaged kids. And that's why you will find that majority of the time it's young kids and young adults that are going through depression.
And your willingness to even share these stories and to speak out openly, it's very inspiring. And it brings me even to my next question, where can you share more about your personal journey with depression?
Okay, I'll share my personal journey. So when I went through depression, the first thing I realized was that I didn't have a job,
Yeah.
meaning that I was at home. I didn't have an income, meaning I couldn't participate in the financial aspects of our daily lives, meaning that I didn't have money to pay for each and everything. You know, I was dependent. When I was going through that, I realized I lost a lot of relationships that I had built over the years.
Yeah.
And most importantly for me, it was a matter of I could not find myself or to who Sandile is, what is Sandile, you know, because of the many pressures that were going against me, you know, because every day the norm is get up, go to work, make money, contribute to society,
Yeah.
you know, and live in a comparison factor where you have this, they have this with your friends. You live in a comparison factor, right? And none of that was happening to me. I was simply at home doing absolutely nothing, and I was just frustrated. I was,
Yeah.
you know, I emotionally, I had many meltdowns, and I simply I was in a position where I felt like I couldn't do much out there. But that was also the opening, but that also opened my eyes in admitting and realizing that I actually had depression.
And I think that is also, that's so good, because that is realizing what was the problem.
Correct.
And it even brings me to something so important that I heard a couple of years ago, is the fact that you just said that that's when you knew that this was depression. So that specific thing that I had heard years ago, it was saying things like, give it a name. Whenever we have painful experiences in life, sometimes to even get through it first, you have to know what it is. You have to call it what it is. Is it a heartbreak? Is it because I lost my job? Is it because I'm unemployed and I cannot find a job as maybe a young student? You need to call it what it is at its core first, which is of course depression. And in that way, by calling it out, you are releasing it.
Correct.
You are releasing it into the world so that you can work through depression and overcome it, of course, in the end.
Correct.
How did the depression affect your relationships and daily life? Because I know you also said that, you know, it affected relationships within your life as well, because we know that depression has the power to do that.
Okay. Let me start with relationship. Let me start, you know, with friends. Let me also open up with friendships. So with relationships, you know, I couldn't go out there and find love because I myself knew that if I had gone out there knowing that I had depression, I was just going to overwhelm the next person, and it was going to be unfair to that person to carry the weight that I was going through, you know. And it made me realize that I can't go out there and promise someone that, listen, I want to start a future with you, I want to have kids, I want us to build a home, because I was not okay myself. You know, friendships, I lost a couple of good friends because some of them had walked away. You know, you would call them, they would not answer. In some cases, they would answer but give you excuses, you know. And these are friends that I was there for during my peak times, you know. And all of a sudden, some of them had just left and they didn't just pick up you know, and that's when I realized that the say that goes, when days are dark, friends are few. It's actually true. You know, when my days were dark, I didn't have any friends. I only had a few friends. You know, but if you would go and you could look up on my social media platforms, you'd see that this guy's got so many friends. But I could count the people that were there for me. I think there were about 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah.
But I had so many people that I was going with. So it affected those relationships. It also then affected my ability to plan well, to go back into a career that I had, you know, and I realized that I was opening myself to a door of inadequate decisions, you know, because now I was beginning to make wrong decisions, but fortunately I picked it up.
Yeah.
I picked it up. I picked up the relationships. I picked up the friendships. So that's how all of it affected me.
And you know, Sandile, you know, there were painful things that you also actually shared there. That's why sometimes it just feels like I'm even losing my breath. There was just a lot of vulnerability in what you said. And I'm such a huge believer of this, that for me, vulnerability is not a weakness. And being in a space where you're not okay, that's not a weakness. In fact, for me, I actually view it as bravery. I would actually say that individual is brave. To me, you are brave.
Yes.
You are very, very brave. For someone to be able to share those things and actually know what the problem is, and to be like, you know what, this is where I am in life right now, I have a problem.
Correct.
The only painful part is now those ripple effects, like you said, of losing friends. That's painful.
Yes.
And especially mentioning now people online, you have so many friends. Remember, some people have 1,000 friends, 2,000 friends, 800 friends. And you know, I would even have these conversations, whether it's with my friends and stuff like that. We're like, you know what, guys? You have so many friends on Facebook, Sandile, right?
Yes.
You have so many. How many of those thousands, 500 or whatever the number is, will drop things at the drop of the hat when you need them? How many of the 2,000 of however many friends that we may have online and so forth are really your friends?
That is true.
That online connection, but how many, or you even said you can count yours in both of your hands.
Yeah, because also remember, and this is what I've learned from my uncle, is that the circle of friends that you have, the many friends that you have on Facebook, remember, they're there because you have got something to offer. When you don't have anything to offer, they are not going to be there, because remember, it's what they are merely there for expectations, which is why one of the biggest highlights in depression is expectations, is that, and it plays such a key role in your self-worth, in knowing that
it does.
You have got to learn to let go of relationships or situations or things that are not serving you, because if you don't and you let that continue, it then invites you to a door of disappointments. And as you get disappointed, the depression it increases. You know, it goes through various stages, and you find yourself in a situation where you completely don't know what to do, completely not knowing what is right and what is wrong. And you find yourself in a situation where you feel like, I can't take it anymore. That's how tough it is.
So you actually even saying to me, from what I picked up there, is the fact that is to actually also do not allow yourself to stay in circumstances or situations that basically do not produce good fruit for your mental health,
Correct.
your mental and emotional health.
Correct.
Is to remove yourself essentially from those situations.
Remove yourself, because those situations, they contribute big time. I know so many people who have gone through mental illnesses and mental institutions because of that. Simply because they didn't want to acknowledge it. But in some cases, they would not want to acknowledge it because there's a norm there that says, Ugoti, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. You've got to be strong. Which, from a depressed person, is not the right thing to do. It is not. It's more like, and the first phase, and one of the first poems that I write is depression, where I say depression is more like it's more like when you have guests and you know that you have got that one pet that you need to put away because it doesn't bite, so that it doesn't bite your guests. You put away the fact that you're mentally not okay to satisfy people's needs and fulfill their expectations. But those are all false, because at the end of the day, when all of that fades away, it still comes back. You still have to go and open back the door, and that little one needs to come out. And that's why many do not find it in themselves to cope with it. But unfortunately, we will never know that unless we are there directly, unless we are there physically, unless we are there as those who care and those that love those individuals. Then we will know.
And you made me think. No, you are touching on some golden nuggets. Now you're just making me think as well, where you said there's also sometimes other people have landed maybe in mental health institutions, right? Because they try to be strong for so long. Because you're saying that they held on to that saying where it says you have to be strong. You have to be strong. And for me, I'm so cautious, Sandile, with my words. Yes. I am very cautious. Even my friends know this. I'm so cautious with them, especially when it comes to things like of depression.
Correct.
Especially when it comes to things like that. I always try to come and tackle things from a place of love and understanding and patience, especially if it's also situations that I'm unaware of. Like for me, for example, I'll even let you know, in a time where I had depression years ago, right? Yes. I faced it as well years ago, and I figured out that even through therapy that you depression, Lena.
Yes.
You have a depression, Funeka. You are depressed. The symptoms, all the symptoms led to that. Everything that I was doing or things that I enjoyed doing, but ended up not doing, not taking care of myself, nothing exciting me in life anymore. Basically walking around but feeling dead inside. Now with me, why I'm just touching on that sentence where so many people you hold on to pain and anger and hurt inside, because now there's this, I guess, societal maybe norm of saying you have to be strong. I was not strong in those moments. You understand, of depression. I was not strong. So I communicated that to my friends. I said to my friends, guys, I'm depressed. I'm not happy right now, but I want you guys to know that I love you guys so much. So please just be gentle with me, just gentle and patient with me. Correct. I'm not removing you guys as my friends, but I'm just communicating with you guys as my loved ones. This is just the current season that I'm working through. Now what that actually did is it it strengthened those bonds, to be quite honest, because those friends are still my friends even today in 2025. So I get fearful of this sentence where people are told, you must be strong. You must be strong, don't cry. I don't know, I don't like it. There's something about it for me that's misleading.
Yes.
I think.
Yes, and I will share something along your questions to that. Because it's very interesting. As we go into the conversation, there is a couple of things I will share.
Okay. And of course, acknowledging that depression is something that leads to dark moments. Have you ever found yourself struggling with suicidal thoughts? And if so, how did you cope?
It's peaked, it's peaked. But fortunately for me, when it peaked, I was already in a position where I was starting to heal. But I wanted to explore more into it, So when I wrote Recovery, and it came to those suicidal thoughts, I started peeking into it, and I realized, Ogoti, many of us do face it. Many of us do go through it, and what happens is that we don't just randomly have suicidal thoughts or suddenly come up with suicidal thoughts. It's a process.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it's a process, and it's a trail of disappointments, and it leads up to what's called, I think it's called death ideation. So what death ideation is, it's the mental preparation of your suicidal journey that you go through when everything falls apart and there is no support structure.
Sure.
And if I can go deeper into that, that ideation is more of you peeking into the life of what it would be like for me to suddenly let go of the life that I've been given. So you start exploring that thought of I feel like I'm not worth it. I'm not worth it. Let me let go. And it becomes a build-up, meaning that you start envisioning your death. You start thinking to yourself and saying, Goti, if I could let go of my life today, who would be there to see me through? How would people know? In other words, you sort of relive your own, let me put it like this, your own funeral in your head.
Yeah.
And the more you start thinking about it, the more it becomes a comfortable norm to speak about, to look into suicide. And it becomes a build-up to a point where the time comes and we see the aftermath of it.
Yes, that is so true.
In essence, those who know see the build-up, and that's how it affects us.
And even with, you mentioned death ideation, and you even said there's a build-up before an individual takes their life. I mean, we've even seen there's been celebrities, their lives look perfect, Sandile.
Yes.
Really, their lives look perfect. It's like these individuals have it all together. Like you tend to think they have it all together. They are beautiful. They have the fame. They have the wealth, the money, maybe even a family, a wife or a husband and kids, and then they take their life. There was even a famous dancer as well from overseas. I think it is Twitch. I hope I'm actually saying the name correctly, but I think it was Twitch. Bubbly soul, so bubbly, so loving, and just makes everyone laugh. Like even how people would speak about his life makes people laugh, and it just brings light.
Yes.
Essentially, in any room, took their life.
Correct.
So for me, I feel like must be it's an excruciatingly painful process to get to a phase where you actually just like you said, it's a process before it gets there.
Yes.
Where you get to that phase where you're like, you know what, I'm there now, and I'm going to do it. My life will be better basically if I'm not on earth anymore. How painful. I'm just thinking that must even be.
Yes. And do you know what that does?
Yeah.
It puts a point across to say that I was not okay.
Yes.
But not many of us will ever see that.
At all. Because I've even seen videos where, people are dancing,
Yes.
they're with their friends. I don't know if you've also seen them, and they're with their friends, but then maybe the captions will be like, this was 24 hours before
Correct.
they took their life. This was maybe 24 hours or 2 days before my brother or my sister or my mom
that is great.
or my dad took their life. But they're laughing now in these videos and stuff like that. Or it's so jolly. They just look like there's no worries in the world.
Yes.
But then you find out sadly, that's when I'm like, sure, it really, suicidal thoughts, like you said as well, the death ideation.
Yes.
I think it's such a silent killer.
It is. You will not know about it. You will not know about it unless someone tells you about it. And if they don't tell you about it, it's not because they don't want to tell you. It's just that they've seen that if they tell you, you will come up with all sorts of advice to try and pull them out of it. And sometimes when someone talks about that, you don't need to give advice. Sometimes you just need to listen and just be there in silence. Because it is true that silence, that some begin to let go of it. But the more you start to advise, the more they start going into it. Which is why there's a chapter called Emotional Meltdown, in which I dive into it and I say, sometimes don't give advice.
Sure.
Sometimes just show up and not say a word.
Yeah.
Simple.
And the fact that you just said, sometimes just show up, and give advice. It brought me to a conversation I was having also with my friend about a week ago, because remember when we started with that exercise in the beginning, I said, how is your mental health on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
And of course you said yours is peaking, and I said mine, I'm there, I'm in between that 5 and the 6, right? Because what happens now, currently in that season of depression.
Yes.
And it's not good. It's not a good feeling. But there's this thing also, Sandile, in the back of my mind that says, I'm going to fight for my life. Actually, I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight for my life here.
Yes.
And I'm going to thrive.
Correct.
I'm not going to build an altar for this pain, even though it was caused, and sometimes, as you said as well, it can even be caused maybe by loved ones or anything like that.
Right.
Even though it was caused by a loved one who I still love them today. Still love and care about them very much so. That one I cannot even lie. I love them so much, But it's just that thing of not building an altar for your pain and fighting for your life.
Good.
And I called my friend over exactly what you said. Sometimes you just need someone to sit there in silence. I said, friend, andiko right, which means I'm not okay. Can you please come over?
Yes.
A friend came over, got us food, pizza, and everything. And I just said, listen, and I was even crying, I'm not okay.
Yes.
I said, I'm not okay. I am depressed and it's painful. I'm in a very sad place in my life, but I I just need you just to be here, like your presence here, and just to give me a hug, just as my friend. I just need you as my friend. And that, as you also mentioned, that sitting in that silence, it was still comforting, I guess, just knowing there's this body here, there's this friend of mine that's sitting in front of me, and this human being loves me.
Yes.
This human being cares about me because I am their friend.
Correct.
And of course, I also allowed them space to, they were imparting so much words of affirmation as well. Like, listen, you're going to thrive. You're going to overcome this. You know, you are a high value woman. You know, you're purpose driven and all these things like that. I think for me, it just, I guess it's so important as well to maybe sometimes also just communicate that.
Correct.
You know, to your loved ones, what do you need in this moment?
Yes.
Do you need silence? Like, let them know, I need silence. And I'm just not okay now. I may take long to reply to messages on WhatsApp. I may take 3 days. I'm not okay. And you know what? It's okay not to be okay as well. It's okay not to be okay sometimes.
Yes.
That's what I think. How did you find any coping mechanisms that helped you during those moments where you felt like, you know what, I'm having anxious thoughts, I'm tired, I'm drained? Was there any maybe certain things that you did? Or do you just, because sometimes you wonder, like, what did that person do to come out of it?
Okay. Firstly, is you've got to acknowledge it. You know, you've got to acknowledge that it's there. And speaking from my own personal experience, you know, I was fortunate enough that I had such a supportive and a loving uncle set me down, also because he had known that I was not okay. And he simply asked me the question, is like, what are you gonna do? And as I answered him, he's like, I don't want you to rush in giving me an answer. Take your time.
That's good.
And I'm like, oh, it's like, no, take your time. There's no need for you to rush. And I took my time, and then he asked me again, like, in China, what are you gonna do? And at that time, I was like, I maybe want to feel like writing a book or something like that. And then he's like, why don't you go for it? I was like, no, why don't you go for it? I mean, do you know how to write a book? I was like, no, then there is it, you know, because for me, I had the art and the passion to write. So I started writing, and I started writing. That's how recovery, one of the things, how recovery came about as well, which I started writing, and I started building the character in the book. And I realized that I'd spend about 6 to 7 months writing day in, day out, Monday to Sunday. You know, I'd sometimes spend sleepless nights writing on my laptop, writing on my phone. And that's the first phase of it, of me coming out of it. And then the second part of it was actually working on the book and releasing it in September of 2021. Right. And seeing it being well received out there, people loving it, and getting the support that I needed. And the final chapters of me dealing with it was the fact that when I released the book, it had started doing well, and then I had the opportunity to actually go back to my career in Edgar's, where I worked with a phenomenal team. You know, we called ourselves Team Color, and there I had worked in so many great projects, and I realized when I was in that team, they told me straight up that we know that you don't have the experience, but we love the fact that you have the passion for it. And I was fortunate enough that when I was with Team Color, I had started achieving my goals, and I started realizing that there's more that I could give.
Yes.
And through Team Color, I was able to do many things, such as have my own place to stay, have my own finances, buy my own things, and be introduced to many other opportunities within retail. And fortunately enough as well, I was able to buy my first car. I was able to buy my second car. I was able to now have the skill and the mindset to
Love
be able to be able to do my job and to be in a position to be where I am today, which is being able to run my own businesses, And it was through Team Color, and that's when that whole part of depression for me had concluded. But I did not leave it there. I decided to go back and share my experiences and be supportive, the same way that I was supported by Team Color, and give back.
I love that.
Today I'm happy to announce that I've got good people that still come to me, and they still share so much of themselves, and they still seek for guidance, and they still seek for emotional support. And fortunately for me now, I'm able to give that, and I'm able to not just give it, but to be able to see it through. So that's how I was able to deal with it and to be able to give back to those who were still going through it.
That was just inspiring. Well, definitely, I feel like I even wanted to be a partner of Team Color. The fact that it had such a positive impact on your life, Sandile.
They did.
Sure.
They know themselves.
Oh, okay. So those individuals know.
They know.
The way you even smile, though, when you're thinking about them, you can just tell. Like some people are bright lights.
Yes, because I also realized that it was through them that they ignited the passion and the love for retail that I had.
Yes.
And I mean, that's what we need in the first place. That if you can ignite that passion, that love for what you are good at, that's exactly what we need to be able to succeed. And that's what I saw when I was working with them during that time.
Now let's take it back to your book, Recovery.
Cool.
In chapter 2 of your book, you discuss how we're taught to view failure as a bad thing in school.
Yes.
Please share more about this and the effects that can have on a young mind.
All right. So the concept of school is that you go to school, do your homework, classwork, and schoolwork, and if any of those things are not met according to those standards, it's viewed as failure, right? Let me just take it more personal. It's when you go through your tests, and out of 50, you get 5 or 6. The class teacher is going to bring you out. It's going to bring you in front, and make a mockery out of you. They'll laugh at you so that the kids can laugh at you. I know it's happened to me. I know many of us have gone through that.
Very true.
But we simply don't forget that failure is actually us acknowledging that the thing was not done correctly and that we have the opportunity to fix it. That is why the reason we go to work every day is so that we could fix what was not done yesterday. But now that concept is thrown as a joke in school, that we start seeing ourselves as failures. But the individual that is sharing that knowledge is simply there because they themselves are put in those institutions, but they fail to understand that each child is different.
Yes, that is very, very important, actually.
So before we view failure from a child's perspective, let's view failure from an adult perspective. And to say, are we giving the right guidance to our kids? Because 10 out of 10, the answer is no. And that is why when you finish school, you realize that many of us struggle to go to universities. Many of us struggle to find jobs simply because we were never taught the ability of what it takes to chase our dreams. Because we were always challenged. We were always going against perfection. We were always going against perfection and failure. So perfection and failure will never ever be in the same category, because the other one wants you to be better, and never see mistakes and failures as a wrong, as a right thing. But failure and mistakes, on the other hand, are simply there to give you the opportunity to make things right. But they will never tell us that. Instead, they'll make us stand in front of a class and we will be laughed at.
Which is not nice. It has long-lasting effects, actually, on a young child's mind.
Correct.
Many years even after that.
Correct.
Can kill their confidence as well.
It does.
Right there, in that moment, it strips it away.
Correct. And some live into that process. By the time they finish school, they already know that they failed.
Yeah.
And there's no mechanisms put in place that could allow them to be revived. No mechanism. And that's why those individuals end up in mental institutions, in prison. The majority of them let go of their lives at such an early stage.
I've seen it also happen to people I also know. I've seen it. I have seen it happen. You are spot on. Sure. And I'm also just thinking now, as you are saying that, actually, Sandile, this failure aspect, because so many people, they take it very deeply, hey?
Yes.
They begin to think they're not worthy enough in society, or they are not important enough, or they are not deemed as those ones that maybe have already even made it in life. That's why for me, I'm always like, failure is just a stepping stone.
Yes.
It's just a stepping stone part of life. It's not the destination. And as you're also saying that you feel like some issues that adults have, they stem right there when they were in classrooms, whether it was from grade 1 up until grade 12.
Correct.
It stems right there, but then that individual has what? They grew up with that. They carried it. Was lurking there. It was lurking there. And then what happens? It shows up at your adult age.
Yes.
Now it's just like, whoa. And you may think this is just how I am, or whatever, but it actually isn't. That was fine-tuned when you were still in school, either when the kids laughed at you, when you weren't doing well at a certain subject. Although I feel like those were critical moments where more so that young child should have rather been taught and nurtured. That, you know what, okay, you failed this one, but let's work, man. Let's work towards the next one, where you will knock those out the park, or work towards building blocks, but to not shame them
Correct.
for failing, especially in school, because it leads to a multitude of other things, such as bullying, if I'm correct,
Yes.
actually, as well.
No, it does. It does. And just to add a bit of that is
Yeah.
that, as a child now, is that you stop chasing your dreams because at home you're expected to do well at school in subjects that do not fuel your drive. At school, you are taught to get exceptional grades,
Yes,
or
you are.
you become a non-active individual, an inactive individual. From a group of learners, you are bullied. So you have all these three pressures going against you.
And it's a lot of pressure, actually.
Now tell me, how do I then have the ability to dream and to be able to chase my dream when all of those three elements occur each and every day of my life, and knowing that I could never go out there and be independent, because at the end of the day, I'm still a kid.
Yeah.
And I still have got 7 to 8 years of school to go through. How?
Very true.
Can't. It's difficult, which is why it's very important from a parent's perspective to nurture their child's ability to dream, to allow Umntwana to have skills, you know. It's so that they can learn to be independent,
Yeah.
you know, and to depend on themselves. It's for schools to now bring in more subjects that deal with everyday life and bring us subjects that are going to equip us to be financially active, you know. So one of my friends would always say to me, why do they give us history and allow us to know what happened in 1685 as if we are going to change something, when they could give us a future so that we can prepare ourselves for what is to come?
For what is to come.
Why? And I said that, like, I don't know.
It left you thinking as well.
Till this day, I mean, I left school since 2011. It's been over 10, 12 years. Don't know. But I still have that. And it's why I put it part of my book. Why aren't we taught the future?
You're making me actually also think as well. Like, really, about what your friend said. Because we are learning so much, like we need to memorize all of these, what happened, and all these different tragedies of the past, of which it's good to have that knowledge. Yes, it's all well and good. But you're really also making me ponder now, why are we not really fully equipped for real life there, that future that's coming out there? Because for me, if I can be very frank and honest with you, I didn't learn about taxes, about dealing with life's challenging times, all these different things, finances, navigating different relationships, whether it's romantic relationships, or anything like that, or applying for jobs or anything like that. I in my school in Korea, I don't recall being taught that at all.
Yes.
Even during the whole of high school. So it really makes me think. I learned those things often, and it dawned on me. I was like, shucks, how come maybe I wasn't like maybe equipped with this, maybe, you know, like grade 10, 11, 12 already there, because you figure out and you learn these things as you obviously now get older, and you think, oh my goodness, I so wish I knew. You know, like I knew then, and already was driving now with all that knowledge then. But of course, I'm always grateful that we always learning now. But it really makes me think as well. Like, I so wish I also knew then this vital information of there is life after school, and then those books as well, like real life, even environments that people will find themselves in now. Those are the real situations that come into play.
Yes.
Yo, it just made me think.
I don't know.
Sure. In chapter 3, the book talks about how unemployment can make you feel inadequate or not important in society. This leads to depression amongst graduates, young people, and people that are still figuring their lives out. What has been your personal experience when it comes to that?
It's the applying of jobs. So when I'd finished my studies in 2015, my diploma in business management and entrepreneurship, I'd started applying for jobs, and The famous email that I got was, "Thank you for applying for this position. However, we regret to inform you that your application was unsuccessful." It makes you wonder, but I've just come from school. Why are you rejecting me now? Why am I being rejected? Because how else am I supposed to gain that experience when majority of the jobs that I wanted to apply in my particular field needed experience? How? Because the best that I could do was do promotions when I was in varsity. But how am I supposed to apply? So it started there, but fortunately enough, I quickly joined the Edgar's group in 2015 up until 2018 or so. But then when I was unemployed between 2019 and 2021, I applied to many other jobs where that email kept coming up, and it got me to a position where I had asked myself, Ogoti, is my qualification sufficient enough now? Did I really study to find myself in a pool of unemployment?
Yeah.
You know, and did I really go through all of that and spend so much just to stay at home and have wishful thinking? Because now I'm unemployed, I can't participate financially, I can't help out at home, I can't give to society, you know. What is it that I'm doing wrong?
Yeah.
You know, and it goes back to the whole point of guidance, support, goes back to the whole point of how well are we equipped for these jobs? Because as much as the rejections are there, if we were given the opportunity to learn more about what the future is, we would have known that this was going to happen. We should have been prepared. We should have been prepared for this, but we were not prepared. And now as we go through it, it's difficult, and it now puts us in a position where now we are in this pool of rejects, you know, and we find ourselves now making wrong decisions.
Yes.
And encouraging those decisions. And then as we make those wrong decisions, we start doing things that we said we were never going to do.
It is true.
And as we do those things, we start getting addicted to substances, and we start abusing those substances.
Such a ripple effect.
And as we abuse those substances, we start questioning our identity. All because we are now in this pool of unemployment.
Yeah.
Sitting there, facing life's everyday pressures. It's tough. And many of us who go through it will tell you that it's not a place that one wants to find themselves in, but we find ourselves in it anyways. And that is why we were not prepared for the future, because if we were prepared for the future, one of the things we would have learned in schools was to start our own businesses, was to be more good in our skills, in our ability to do sports and many other aspects of things. We would be more understanding that a course like plumbing is a very good course, but back in the days we would laugh about it.
That is so true. Oh,
we would laugh about it.
You're touching on such important points, you know.
Yeah. No.
And as we know, unemployment is a big issue in our country. It is even one of the leading factors actually of depression and suicide, as we've spoken about. And it honestly, it's just so sad to, when you are in that state, you know, you see all of these things, but when you are in that state of unemployment and you're consistently applying for jobs for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, you actually, and that really does happen. I know it. Yes, it really does happen where many people, it's not that they wanted to find themselves doing all these other things that are deemed, of course, as unorthodox or even illegal.
Yes.
They did not want to find themselves there, but Sandile, they needed to, the unemployment also leads to desperation for some. That's just a matter of the fact. It does lead to desperation, hence you are saying there's many things. Others they may sell narcotics and other substances, of course. However, many they are, or whatever they are called. Others will even get into crime because they feel like, you know what, here in my space of where I live, in my environment, or in my country, or in my city, I am consistently, all I'm receiving as a young person that's constantly applying for jobs, I'm receiving rejection. Rejection, it's building up rejection. That's what you begin to think, you know what, I'm presented with an opportunity here though. Then of course, then other people may come and be like, no man, you know what, let's swing this, it's a quick 20,000. Yes. 20,000 becomes 50,000. That's just now the sad, can you see, it's so, it has many facets to it, honestly, all these different life circumstances that lands so many people, honestly, young and old actually, because depression knows no color, depression knows no age.
Yes.
That's just a matter of fact.
That is true.
Do you then think it's important to talk about mental health and depression openly, especially in communities where it is constantly stigmatized?
It is because it allows those individuals to express themselves. It allows those individuals to allow the truth of what they're going through to be spoken. And when that truth is spoken, it opens the door for people to be helped, right? It allows for mentors to come on board. It allows for them to revive their dreams. It allows them to have that ambition again, you know, that determination of wanting to add and to give to society. So it's very important to talk about it, but it's how we talk about it, and it's to who do we talk about it, which becomes a very important aspect, because we can't talk about mental issues to a group of people who don't understand it, who will tell you that this is just an excuse that you're going through, because it just becomes a big contributing factor.
Very true.
So it's a matter of who's open and willing to listen.
Without judgment as well. Because I feel like also when you are going through depression, as of course you've experienced it, Sandile, I've experienced it, you are in such a vulnerable space.
Right.
You know, and it can always go in many different ways, because you don't want to end up, of course, taking your life also as well.
Yes.
So I guess it really is cautious also just who we allow to speak into our lives.
Correct.
Very, very critical. And for you personally, what would you say to someone that's struggling with depression, but they actually are scared because of now this stigmatization? They're scared now to speak out. Oh no, what is it, depression? People will judge me. I'm not supposed to have depression. In my community, depression is not, they maybe think, no, you are sick in the brain or whatever, but it's not. No one plans to have depression, and nobody asks for it. It comes from life's unexpected tragedies or circumstances at that.
The sad part about it, but it's a reality, is that you have to first acknowledge it for yourself, and you have to create and develop those plans for yourself.
That's the painful part.
because you don't know who's willing to listen until you start making change. Because when I started to make change, I started seeing and realizing who would listen and to give more advice. My mom, my uncle, my brother, my sister.
I love that.
My team, you know. As I began to work on myself, that door started opening for them to listen and to be able to give the advice, the guidance, the support, which has allowed me to be here today to talk about it. So it starts with you. Don't be afraid to start it. Start. If you've the first phase of acknowledging it is the biggest phase, because not many of us even go through that. Because when you start acknowledging it and you start working on it, you begin to have a competitive edge on your challenges, because now you know exactly what you need to do, where you need to do, how you've got the ability to now start managing the mental illness and to eliminate it one by one.
And it's a process.
It's a process. It's not going to happen. It's not going to suddenly change tomorrow, or change over the weekend, or change over 2 months. It's going to take time. Be willing to take the time to go through it, because it takes time. For me, it took more than 3-4 years before everything turned out the way it is turned out, you know. And it was a process of many phases in my space.
And you know, I took so much from what you I took so much from what you said, Yazi Sandile. It really is a process, because you reminded me now of a time even when my therapist once shared with me years ago, you know, because I was like, okay, you know what, let me go and try this thing out that is therapy. You know, let me go and try therapy out, because I was having battles in the mind that stripped life from me. Felt so empty, felt very lonely, and I felt lost with no direction. But I said, let me try this thing that's called therapy. Correct. And I saw an amazing speaker, one of my Facebook friends. She is a therapist, right? And I was like, you know what, let me go and try and sit in her practice. Yes. Let me just make that booking and let me see what is therapy exactly, and what am I going to uncover there, and what is it going to do for me. In that first sitting, Sandile, it changed the trajectory of my life. I promise you, it was the first session, but it made me realize that, one, it's okay not to be okay. Cool. Two, depression is real, but you can overcome it.
Yes.
You know, there were many pointers that were shared there of how, you know, we gave it a name, but not only now giving it a name, which is depression, we called out the circumstances that led Ufuneka in that depression. We called them out. It's painful, because now you have to get to the root. The root of your traumas, the root of your pains. It's not easy. So and you know, I can even hear her voice. Oh, she's a phenomenal lady. Yeah. I can even hear her voice where she just says, Funeka, let's call it out. We are going to call them out one by one. And she would even say, you know, and do these actions. We are uprooting these things. Yes. Now from your life, so she was saying that so that you are not dying with them inside. Now you're already sharing them to another being, a human being, which is me. Correct. So she was like, they are not, now these things are not dying with you. Now we are rooting out each of these circumstances, as much as I broke down as we rooted each and one of them, so that, you know why, I never wanted Sandile to be, I didn't want to be someone just because of the tough situation that I'm going through or the painful phase of depression that I went through. I didn't want to bleed on others.
Yes.
I didn't want to bleed on my loved ones that didn't cause these things. I didn't want to bleed to my colleagues at work.
Yes.
I didn't want to bleed just to people in society or random people if I'm going to buy my groceries. I just didn't want that for myself because these people did nothing to me.
Correct.
But now the painful process, as you have mentioned as well, that it is a process, and obviously it takes, the timeline will be different for everyone.
Correct.
And it's painful. Let's be very, very honest. You have to do that inner work and you have to go through it. But it is gut-wrenching. But when you come out, oh my goodness, you thrive.
You do.
You really, really thrive. As you've also mentioned in your case as well, like,
Yes.
whoa, actually, I saw that now I've got my businesses running. You purchased a car, like you saw all these things. Yes, all these amazing things that happened for you.
Correct.
So for me, that's what I just thought. Sure, you brought me back to that wonderful moment of go through the process.
Yes.
And don't suffer in silence.
Don't.
How do you think, though, and you did mention it as well, how do you think like our friends and family can support someone that's struggling with depression? How these individuals that are tied in our lives, how can they maybe serve as a support structure even?
First thing that they would have to do is allow you the platform to talk about your problem and allow you the platform to go out there and have the plans in place to be able to deal with your problem. That is the first part of it. The second part of it is for them to be there, to be able to offer the guidance, allow you to drive it, but for them to be there to say, if you get to a certain point where you just can't, I'm there to continue the drive, and that drive could be many things, which is emotional support, which is love, financial support, which is being able to, to assist. Maybe I want to go back to school and finish my diploma or my degree, spiritual support,
Yes.
which is being able to go to church, physical support, which is being able to go out there, eat healthy, go to gym, get back the confidence, be in physical shape to be able to deal and to be able to conclude the challenges that you're going through. So that's how they can support you. I mean, for me, I was supported in many aspects of things, such as love. I was given the financial support. I was given the spiritual support, I was given that platform, but I decided how I needed it to go. And they were there. And that's how my loved ones played such an amazing support during that time. So it will sort of be similar to everyone, because at the end of the day, we need one another. You can't deal with this alone,
Definitely true. Cannot operate. Basically, I'm always of that notion. You cannot operate in isolation.
Isolation, correct.
You, in fact, internally, you die in isolation.
Correct.
You need to release it.
Correct.
You need to get it out of your system, because what it likes as well, depression will have you. I don't know how they put it, these terms now. It will have you on a chokehold if you keep it to yourself.
Yes.
So I share those same sentiments as you. Especially you mentioned just practical things. They don't have to even be above and beyond, but the steps that you just mentioned that helped you to cope is very much the same ones that I share with you as well.
Oh, yes.
What did you learn about yourself during your journey with depression? Is there any key things that you learned maybe about Sandile personally or anything
I
that
realized,
it taught you about yourself?
I realized that I actually had a gift.
Oh, okay.
I realized that I was actually good in writing. I realized that I had a passion for cars.
Yes.
I realized that I enjoyed retail. You know, I realized that I know how to pick my friends, and I know how each of them work in my space, right? And more or less, I realized that I have a passion if I put myself, if I put in the work, you know, if I put myself first. So that's one of the most important things I learned about myself.
And you know, that's so critical, you know, because for me, personally, I learned that, because you're saying for you, you even found your passions.
Yes.
Your passion, which is writing. I learned that I am capable. I'm capable of achieving anything ufuneka puts her mind to.
Correct.
I am worthy. I am lovable. I do matter in society.
Correct.
You know, those were just the things that also stood out for me. So it's always been such a reminder as the years go by, as the days go by, like, you know what, and whatever may come in life, that those key lessons will always play in my mind, like, I am worthy.
Yes.
I am lovable, and I am capable of achieving anything that I put my mind to.
Correct.
You know, and in there also as well, in those lessons, you are very much spot on. You will sometimes even find your passion projects.
Yes.
That's the thing, you'll find something that thing that sparks or fuels your life, and I absolutely love that, actually.
Yes.
For you, how do you practice self-care?
Self-care, that's simple for me. First thing, I'm honest with myself.
Yeah.
I am very much transparent in the matters that I raise, and I'm very much aware of things that don't serve me well and things that serve me good. So for me, that allows me to know when to make a decision, how to make a decision, and to understand if that decision is a right one or is a wrong one, and the timing of it. That's how I practice it.
Ooh, I like that, actually. And it's so interesting, actually, how my methods of coping, my methods of prioritizing my mental health are similar, but also
Yes.
just a bit different to yours. You know, I do an array of different things. You know, taking care of myself for me is I go to the gym, I work out, I make sure I'm keeping not only my body healthy, but my mind healthy. So for me, that is an outlet. I work out, I hang out with my friends, I continue doing things that I enjoy, whatever those may be, whether it's a walk on the beach, reading a book, reading the Bible. I will always not give up on those activities that I know that leave me feeling happy and good about myself. And another important one, which I don't think I will ever stop, is I also go to therapy, because remember, I learned even from years ago is that, you know what, therapy is not only for when you have problems, for when you have problems or issues.
Correct.
I even go to therapy just for self-development and growth, and it is the most beautiful journey. It is a beautiful journey because you grow there. You learn so much, Sandile, which I'm sure you know. You learn so much about you learn about yourself.
Yes.
About your character builds there. Your attitude becomes better. Your outlook actually on life, relationships it's handled just with so much. To be quite honest, with so much care and love, and from a perspective of gained wisdom.
Correct.
So for me, I absolutely love it. It's all these different things that I do to ensure that I am taking care of self. You even said we must do the self-work. You mentioned that factor. So
Yes.
I've always prioritized that, taking care of self.
Yes. You have to.
So for those people that want to purchase your book, actually let me,
Recovery.
you know, I feel like, you are the author, even though I know that is my copy. Where can people purchase your book?
Well, I've got copies of it. They can always purchase it on my website called skytech.co.za. Recovery is available there, or they can contact me on social media platforms, Sandile Nkonki, on Facebook, or you can just Google it and you'll be able to find me on social platforms. Or you can always contact me on my WhatsApp, but I'll give that WhatsApp 082-686-3421. And yes, you can more than well contact Beyond the Veil, which also has copies of the book. So yeah, but mostly you'll find the book at my website called skytech.co.za, and you will go to books, which will be there.
Okay, what I will do as well is that I will share those details.
Cool.
Yes, I will actually write down and leave them there just so that it's easy access. Just for the people that are interested in buying the book, they can just visit the website. But I will share all of those details.
Nice.
And just of course, before we end off, as you reflect on your journey with depression and mental health as a whole, what would you say to those who are still in darkness and struggling to find a way forward, who feels like actually this is it for me?
Take on. First thing is first, don't give up on yourself. I say don't give up on yourself because you're the captain of your journey. One of the most famous sayings that I was given was that they can't cancel you, but you can cancel yourself. And for me, it's the same thing. They've tried canceling me so many times, but I come back, so many times I come back. They can cancel me like 100 times, I'll come back 101. They can cancel me at 101, I'll come back at 102. So the choice is yours to make. Yes, it's tough. Yes, it's difficult. It's impossible. But at the end of the day, if you don't take the steps to go to rectify what is going on in your space, it becomes very, very difficult for people to reach out. But the moment you start working on yourself, that is why I said, if schools can teach us self-work, it would allow us to be more vigilant and more aware of our capabilities, And I mean, depression is more or less a mental illness.
It's a battle of the mind.
It's the battle of the mind. Yes, some could say, well, there are prescriptions for it. But at the end of the day, you sit with the problem.
Yes.
The medication can sort of numb your nerves, but they can't fix your problem.
There we go.
That is how you can do it. So acknowledge it, work on it, and you will see the help. And probably in a year or two, you'll probably be sitting in the same spot as I'm sitting, talking about it and sharing your story to other people.